10 real-life giants. We look at basketball players and think they're really tall. They're ants compared to some of these real-life giants. Here are 10 of the world's real-life giants. Subscribe to the channel so you never miss an upload. 10. Fyodor Makhnov. Fyodor was born in 1878 in what is now Belarus. He started growing super fast at 8 years old and was 6 foot 7 inches by the age of 14. He was so large, he had to order custom-made clothes, and he slept on a special bed built just for him. His feet were so big that his boots reached the waist of normal people. His boots were so big that kids used to play hide-and-seek in them. He found the perfect job in the circus and started performing at the age of 16. By then, he had reached a height of 8 foot 2. He did marry, but the woman he married was 3 feet 3 inches shorter than him. They went on to have a normal family life with a girl and 3 boys. Like many other real-life giants, Fyodor only lived to be 34 years old. The massive height and size can take a toll on their hearts. Makhnov had a huge appetite. For breakfast, he used to eat 20 eggs, 8 loaves of bread, and 2 liters of tea. For lunch, he would eat over 2 pounds of potatoes, 5.5 pounds of meat, and 3 liters of beer. We won't even talk about what he ate for dinner. Fyodor was such a mystery to scientists that many of them offered Fyodor money in exchange for the rights to cut up his body when he died. Afraid that if he agreed to such a thing, he would be murdered, Fyodor turned down every single offer. This next guy started out as a normal child, and then you'll never guess what happened. 9. Adam Rayner. Adam Rayner was the only man in history to be born a dwarf and end up a giant. He was born in Austria in 1899. He applied to the army when World War I broke out, but he was turned down because he was too short. At that time, he was only 4 foot 6. He tried again a year later and again was turned down. It wasn't until he turned 21 that he started to grow at a rapid rate. He ended up growing to a full height of 7 foot 1. Because he was meant to be a little person, as he started to grow, his spine started curving and his face and jaws got huge. He had surgery to shut down the pituitary glands in his body so that he would stop growing so quickly. The surgery didn't work and he continued to grow until his death, at the time of which he was 7 foot 8. His size caused a lot of health problems. He ended up going blind in one eye and deaf in one ear. He lived to be 51 years old, which is kind of long for a giant. Take a look at this next video, where you'll get to see a real-life female giant. 8. Anna Haining Bates. We don't usually talk about female giants, but we have one here. Anna Haining Bates was born in Nova Scotia in 1846. At the age of 5, she was 4 foot 8 and weighed about 100 pounds. She continued to grow, and by age 22, she was 7 foot 6 and only weighed 159 pounds. Like many other real-life giants, she joined the circus as a performer. She performed next to a dwarf, which made her look even bigger. In 1865, she almost died in a hotel fire because she was too big to jump out the window. Thankfully, people broke down the walls to get her out. Anna married another giant, Martin Van Buren Bates. He was about the same height as Anna, coming in at 7 foot 3. The two had a special house built for them with everything oversized. They did try to have children, but both of their babies died in childbirth. Anna passed away young at the age of 41. You'll never believe where our next giant is from. 7. Chong You Sing. Asian men are known for being small-framed, so it's a bit surprising to find a Chinese-born Chong You Sing. His legal name was Zhang Shicher, and he was also referred to as Chong Wu Go. He grew to be almost 8 feet tall, and he was so large he was named to China's emperor court. He left China for a trip to England and decided to stay there for several years. While in London, he was such an oddity that people would throw money at him just to take a look. He then went on tour with different national circuses until he joined P.T. Barnum in 1881. He had tons of women willing to marry him, but he died a single man. He died in 1893 at the age of 50. His funeral was so small, with only about 50 attendees. Sing's coffin was said to have been almost 8.5 feet long. Have you ever heard of a giant wanting to be a cowboy? Well, then you need to check out this next video. 6. Joseph Beaupré. Joseph Beaupre was born in Saskatchewan in 1881. He grew normally until he was about 3 years old when he started to grow rapidly. He was 6'6" by the time he was 12, and he would go on to be 7'1" by the time he was 17. He was so big and so strong that at age 17, he actually lifted an 800-pound horse. Beaupre had dreams of becoming a cowboy, but when he sat on a horse, his feet touched the ground. He gave up on this dream and ended up joining the circus like many other giants. Beaupre had coughing issues thanks to his many bouts with tuberculosis. At the age of 23, he started coughing up blood and died as a result. The circus refused to pay for his burial. His dad was too poor to pay for a funeral, so his body stayed with the undertakers. All of a sudden, his body started appearing in store windows and museums. In 1907, someone found his body in an empty hangar where it had been left by the circus. The body was transferred to Montreal University, where it was mummified and preserved. In 1970, one of Beaupre's descendants found out where his body was. He asked the school to release the body so he could give him a proper burial. Finally, 19 years later, when the school relented and released the body, it was cremated. So, poor Beaupre didn't receive a proper burial for 85 long years. Check out the gentle giant in this next clip. 5. Patrick Cotter O'Brien. Patrick Cotter O'Brien was born in 1760 in Ireland. Big surprise there. He grew to be over 8 feet tall and was one of only 13 people by 1760 to ever have been classified a giant. At 18, Cotter started working as a bricklayer. He was so tall, he could reach the roofs without a ladder, so the job was easy for him. He did eventually go into show business. He changed his name to O'Brien after many Irish kings. He traveled around in a special-made carriage large enough to accommodate his large size. It was rumored that his carriage was once stopped by highwaymen looking to rob him, but when they saw Cotter sitting there, they ran the other way. O'Brien died in 1806 at the age of 46 after his large size took a toll on his body. Wow, you won't believe what happens in this next video. 4. Arthur Cayley. Cayley was born on the Isle of Man in 1824. He didn't start growing much until he was a teenager. Then he quickly shot up to a full height of 7'11". Unlike some other giants, Cayley grew wide at the same rate he grew tall. He was almost 400 pounds by the age of 21. Cayley worked at exhibits in London and Paris before suddenly disappearing in the mid-1800s. There had been an insurance policy taken out on him for £2,000. People assumed she had killed him or let him die for the insurance money. In reality, Cayley wasn't dead at all. He had moved to the US to work for P.T. Barnum in his circus. He played the role of the Arabian giant with the circus until his death in 1889. It wasn't until he had died for real that people realized that he was the same man who they had seen across Europe. This next video is guaranteed to show you the biggest Boy Scout of all time. 3. Robert Wadlow. Robert Wadlow was born in the United States to normal-sized parents. By the time he was 8, he was 5'11", and he was strong enough to carry his dad up the stairs. He joined the Boy Scouts and had to get his uniform, tent, and sleeping bag made specially because he was so big. Wadlow reached 8'1" by the time he was 17, making him the largest teenager in the world at the time. In 1936, he joined Ringling Brothers Circus. He was so big, he ate 8,000 calories every day. Because of his size, he had problems walking. He just couldn't support his body weight. He had braces on his legs and had to use a cane, yet he continued to grow. In 1940, a doctor fitted Wadlow for a brace, and it didn't fit. This caused a blister on his leg, which then became infected. The infection killed him in 1940 at the young age of 22. His coffin was over 10 feet long, and at the time of his death, he had the longest hands and feet ever. You'll never guess what this next giant is able to lift. 2. Angus McCaskill. McCaskill was born in Scotland in 1825. He was never really categorized as a giant because he was not born large. In fact, he was so small as a child, doctors thought he would die. They didn't even think he'd survive his first few days as a baby because he was so tiny. McCaskill didn't necessarily grow to be the tallest man, he only grew to be 7'9". However, he was a giant of a man weighing in at over 500 pounds. He was so strong, he was able to lift a 2,800-pound anchor. A lot of people like to challenge McCaskill to wrestling matches for money. Plus, it was cool to say that they had gotten in the ring with the giant. However, after making a man's hand bleed by simply shaking it, most challengers backed off pretty fast. Like every other good giant, he joined the circus and traveled the world. He eventually moved to America, where he worked in real estate and started his own business. He died of brain fever in 1863 at just 43 years old. Now we've come to your favorite part of the video. I saved the best for last, but first I have a quick challenge that takes only 5 seconds to complete. So if you can leave a like and subscribe within the next 5 seconds, you'll get 10 years of amazing luck. Just try it. It really works. 1. Bernard Coyne. Nicknamed Bernard the Giant, Bernard Coyne was born in Iowa in 1897. There are different reports as to just how tall he was. Some say he was as tall as 8'8". Either way, for sure, he was at least 8 feet tall. He was so tall that he was rejected by the military for World War I. Unlike a lot of giants who suffered from a pituitary glandular issue, Coyne actually had gigantism syndrome. It is very rare and is actually not the most common cause for people who are giants. When he was a child, his parents exploited him and charged people money just to look at Bernard. They stopped after a while because someone told them they would go to hell for it. Coyne turned down every offer to become a performer and chose to live a quiet and solitary life until he died at the age of 23. I hope you enjoyed the video for today, and if you did, well, it's your lucky day. For every single person that likes this video, you'll get to try on these awesome outfits worn by the giants listed in this video. Thanks for watching, and have an excellent day.